I already love same-day delivery with Shipt, but it's so much better since I signed up for Target's Circle 360. Why? Because I no longer pay price markups from the majority of stores through Shipt. Only a handful of alcohol retailers and items don't count. That means no markups on groceries, pet food, even home goods and makeup. So to recap, I have more time to catch up on life while someone shops for me, and I spend less. It's a win-win. Order now at shipt.com/360. Terms apply.
Starting a business can seem like a daunting task, unless you have a partner like Shopify. They have the tools you need to start and grow your business. From designing a website to marketing to selling and beyond, Shopify can help with everything you need. There's a reason millions of companies like Mattel, Heinz, and Allbirds continue to trust and use them. With Shopify on your side, turn your big business idea into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
The Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we're back on the Roger Stone Show. Joining me now, former Congressman Curt Weldon. He was a 10-term Republican member of Congress from Pennsylvania, serving from 1987 to 2007. He is widely respected on a bipartisan basis for his work on national security, foreign affairs, and emergency preparedness. During his time in Congress, he served as vice chairman of both the House Armed Services Committee and the House Homeland Security Committee, roles that placed him at the center of U.S. defense and intelligence oversight. More recently has gained national recognition for his independent efforts to expose intelligence failures surrounding the 9/11 terrorist attacks. I watched a great, riveting interview with him with my good friend Tucker Carlson, which is why I'm proud to have him on the show today. Congressman Weldon, thank you for joining us on the Roger Stone Show.
Roger, it's a pleasure to be with you, and let me extend a special thanks to you and your family. People may not be aware of this, but as a career firefighter, fire chief, I'm well aware that your family has a heritage of the fire service, and your father and grandfather were both firefighters and fire chiefs in a volunteer capacity. So thank you, and thank your family.
I appreciate you mentioning that. My father, Roger J. Stone Sr., was the fire chief of the Vista, New York Volunteer Fire Department, as was my grandfather, Norris Stone. We're proud of that public service. My uncle was also chief for a period. Congressman, I've long believed that the 9/11 Commission report is our era's version of the Warren Commission report, meaning it was promulgated to support the official government story and suppress the truth. So can you explain how you have faced professional consequences throughout your political career for publicly pointing out the dubiousness of the 9/11 Commission conclusions?
Well, I certainly will. And again, it's a personal thing for me. I am a firefighter throughout my whole career, like my father and brothers. And I was at the World Trade Center in '93, the first attack. Spent the day at Ground Zero. In fact, Governor Mario Cuomo called me that night and thanked me for a 1-hour special order I did on the need to support the fire department of New York, which I was doing. I was back there at 9/11 at Ground Zero looking for my good friend Ray Downey, who was the chief who had taken me through the bombed-out Trade Center in '93 and who was missing and eventually died. We never found his body at 9/11. I immediately said the government was at fault for not giving the support for a fusion center of intelligence that could have stopped this. And those words were not my words. Louis Freeh, former FBI director, when he came out with this publicly, wrote an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal. And he also went on Good Morning America. And both of these are documents you can get a hold of. And on both of those, he said that 9/11 could have been prevented. In addition, General Keith Lambert, who was one of our Special Forces command officers, directing horseback special forces over in Asia, was interviewed in his best-selling book, Horse Soldiers, which became a Hollywood movie. And on page 27, he was asked the question, General, what were your thoughts when 9/11 happened? And the general responds, within seconds, I knew who had done the attack. I knew it involved Muhammad Atta because I had been briefed on a top-secret Army intelligence program. Roger, none of this is in a 9/11 Commission report. The Commission was a total whitewash. Zelikow was handpicked to deceive the American people. His co-chair in this whole effort Jamie Grelick was a partner in crime. She represented the Democrats, Zelikow, the Republicans, and their staffer, Dieter Snell. The commissioners never had a clue. They were never given the information necessary to make a determination. And the entire country has been blindsided. I immediately called into question this, and the deep state came after me. I was up for chairman of the Armed Services Committee in 2006. I would have won my 11th re-election handily. 3 weeks before my election, agents from D.C. came to my daughter's house, raided her house at 7 o'clock in the morning with the cameras already there. It was a national story. No one ever talked to my daughter. Nothing. No investigation, no indictments, no questions, zero. The raid was just to stop my election and make it appear as though my daughter, maybe I, had done something wrong. That was the beginning of what we're seeing today. What happened to you, Donald Trump, other people. This all began back in the early days of Clinton and Bush. It really increased dramatically under Bush because he was not in control. And what the American people have to know is if we don't take back this country, it's going to get much worse than it is today.
To me, the smoking gun to understanding 9/11's official story is the question of Building 7. Few Americans even understand that there was a third building, one that was not hit by a plane, but it collapsed on September 11th. Can you explain to us the situation surrounding Building 7 and why the 9/11 Commission refused to seriously even address this elephant in the room?
Exactly. Another key fallacy of the 9/11 Commission was exactly as you just pointed out. Building 7, 47 stories tall. The third building in the Trade Center complex. And was not hit by any plane and did not have any serious fire. And without any doubt, and even Donald Trump, the businessman, was interviewed by a local New York TV station on 9/11. And in his own words, as he watched the building come down in a replay, he said, "Look, I'm a contractor. That's controlled demolition." Donald Trump back then said what we all know today. That building was not caused by a plane crash. That building was brought down deliberately. There are so many factors that need to be investigated about 9/11. It stinks. It's the biggest scandal in the history of America. It's been the biggest cover-up in the history of America. Roger, we just didn't lose 343 firefighters, including my friend Ray Downey, but we also lost 2,977 civilians and responders. And then we sent, on top of that, because of 9/11, 2,500 soldiers to Afghanistan who came home in body bags looking for bin Laden. And bin Laden wasn't in Afghanistan. He had been hidden by our deep state in Iran. I have 11 silver bullets. They can't be refuted, and I'll take a polygraph on every one of those. We placed, with the help of our allies, Osama bin Laden in Baluchistan in Iran, not with the Iranian government, with the head of their IRG, their intelligence services. That's why we killed Soleimani 5 years ago. I questioned the CIA as the acting chairman of the Full Armed Services Committee twice, in front of 60 members of Congress from both parties. I had intelligence. On one case, right after 9/11, I said bin Laden's been reportedly in a town called Ladiz, and I'd gone up and bought a map on Pennsylvania Avenue in D.C., and I said, can you tell me, agents, is that true? And the CIA said to me, in front of 60 members, Mr. Chairman, we've heard similar reports. We can either confirm or deny them. 3 months later, I got intelligence that he was being treated at a hospital, a military hospital outside of Tehran. I got the same response. Then I had Congressman Jack Murtha, the most respected Democrat in the House on defense issues. Send over Democrat Ron Klink, who's still alive and will verify the story. They brought a knock-in who had worked for the agency, and he told me that bin Laden was in Iran. I have 12 people, 11 verified silver bullets, that Osama bin Laden was placed in Iran with the knowledge of our government while we sent American kids to Afghanistan. 2,500 came back dead. That's unacceptable, Roger. And the American people need to know until we take back control of the deep state. And it's not the entire deep state. I have friends in the agencies that I support and will go to the wall for. But I'm talking about the scumbags who have made money, the people like the ones that Donald Trump removed the 51 security clearances. I know those people, and they're the ones I'm talking about.
Congressman, surely you know that there were reports of men in North Florida attending a training facility. The FBI was made aware of that. They conducted no investigation before 9/11. After 9/11, they found a residence, jewelry, clothing, automobiles, but they found no suspects. This former Florida Senator Bob Graham has raised this question publicly. There's been a major effort to discredit him. So there's a lot of troubling questions here, and I want you to address this one particularly. The government has steadfastly refused to disclose everything regarding the knowledge and involvement of the Saudi government. We do know that the majority of those men they accuse of attacking the country in 9/11 were Saudis. Little known is the fact that John Brennan, as the CIA director in Riyadh, signed off on the visas of 4 of those men. So what, if anything, is the role of the Saudis on 9/11?
Well, as I've said frequently, Roger, I try to stick to the things that I can absolutely 100% verify and will take a polygraph on. I don't have the absolute verification of any foreign government or nation. I have my own suspicions and on my own concerns based upon things I've been told. But what I can tell you is this. I was the oversight chairman at the time, besides being the representative of all the firefighters in America, and having been at the Trade Center twice and at 9/11. I was the oversight chairman of all military research, $180 billion a year of funding. I was responsible for that funds. We were setting up information dominance centers for our services. The Army Center was at Fort Belvoir, and I was funding it. I was very friendly with each of the leaders of that 20-person unit established by General Hugh Shelton, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. They came to me frantically on 9/11. While we're having this attack occurring, they called me on my cell phone and said, Mr. Chairman, we have to see you right away. I didn't know what to think of this. I finally met with each of them separately, 5 separate professionals, all intel experts. And I'll name them all because they're all now public. They all came out and told me the same story. We'd identified Muhammad Atta and the New York cell of Al-Qaeda a year in advance, 1 year in advance. The military intelligence unit, Able Danger, Tony Schaefer, lieutenant colonel in the Army, Scott Philpott, Annapolis grad, the Navy, Dr. Eileen Pricer, Air Force, career intelligence officer, Eric Kleinsmith, the head of our Lewa facility. All of them have come out now publicly and verified what I've said. Not just me, each of them. In fact, I had 2 of them on the podcast of Patrick Ben David. We knew in advance, a year in advance, that this New York cell was operational. And furthermore, I'm going to tell you this, Roger, on your show. It's been verified to me by a senior international leader of the FBI, and I have his name and I have his memo, that 2 of the terrorists at 9/11 were on the payroll of the CIA at the time. 2 of the terrorists were on the payroll of our CIA at the time.
Absolutely incredible, but not surprising. Two of the 8 Watergate burglars were on the payroll of the CIA at the time of the Watergate break-in. If you're just tuning in, we're talking to former Congressman Curt Weldon, a great American patriot, and we'll be right back.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Roger Stone Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Roger Stone Show. Remember, coming up is my all-time favorite, Roseanne Barr, the actress, comedian, writer, television producer, and the first victim of the wave of censorship that marked the Obama-Biden years. Now we continue with our conversation with former Congressman Curt Weldon. Curt Weldon served with great distinction in the U.S. House of Representatives. He's paid a heavy price for being a truth-teller about 9/11 and other important foreign policy issues. Congressman, to me, one of the most heinous foreign policy atrocities in recent memory, perpetuated by Obama's State Department and our NATO allies, was the toppling of Gaddafi in Libya. Overseen by Hillary Clinton, this turned Libya from a relatively stable country into a hellhole, and it unleashed waves of Muslims into Europe. Why was this operation performed when it was, and why was it performed when it so obviously was going to lead to this horrific outcome?
Well, Roger, I appreciate you asking that question. I took my role as Vice Chairman of the Defense Committee very seriously, and whenever I could travel overseas and support the administration, be it Republican or Democrat, on foreign policy issues to avoid war, I did it. So I went to Libya when George Bush publicly proclaimed that Gaddafi had come out and said he was going to renounce terrorism and give up any weapons, and praised him for that, and actually brought his son safe over to meet with Condoleezza Rice in the U.S. I was taking a group of members of both parties to Iraq to meet with our troops, and I said to the State Department, I'm going to stop in Tripoli. I want to see Gaddafi and let him know that we will support our president if Gaddafi is verified that he's doing what he said he would do. The White House tried to stop me, but during my time in Congress, I was not one that could be stopped. So we took a 6-member delegation, 3 Democrats, 3 Republicans, and we landed in Tripoli. There were hundreds of people there, including the first American delegation in 25 years. And we were there for 3 days. It was amazing. We saw all the positive changes being made in the country. Gaddafi was an eccentric person, but on our final meeting of the trip, it was in a tent with him where he told us he didn't want war, he didn't want conflict. But I'll give you a couple of observations, one of which will interest you. On the second day, they took us out to a reservoir of clean water to show us where he had built this man-made system of moving pure water throughout the desert through these massive pipes to help the people get drinking water and sanitation systems. And they set up these tents that we all sat under with the leaders of the neighboring countries. Gaddafi wasn't at this meeting, but the leaders were there. And as we sat there, I looked at this 14-foot-high pipe, and I said, how did you build that pipe? You've been under sanctions for 25 years by the U.S. and by Europe. And the Libyan leaders who were with us said, well, Congressman, we didn't build the pipe. I said, well, who did you buy it from? Russia? China? Oh, no, Congressman. I said, well, you've been under sanctions by Europe and by the U.S. Who did you buy the pipe from? And they said, well, we bought it from some company called Halliburton. At the time of that, Dick Cheney was the CEO of Halliburton, right before he became the vice president. That's what the problem. I went back and filed an ethics report about what I had witnessed. Gaddafi wanted one thing. He wanted to establish a nation, a group of nations in Africa, as Europe had done with one economy. He wanted a unified African economy, and he wanted to base it on the gold standard. But the West didn't want that, and they wanted to remove Gaddafi because he'd become head of the African Union. The war occurred. The effort was to remove him, and I got a call from 2 of Gaddafi's, the friends of his son, Saadi Gaddafi, who was in the U.S. One was from a close friend of George Bush, Steve Payne from Texas, and the other was a former staffer of Biden, Brian Ettinger. And they said, Curt, Saadi Gaddafi's here. His father wants you to come to Libya during the war. I went to Libya. I took them over. I hand-carried the letter back from Gaddafi to Hillary Clinton and Obama, offering to resign.
And they killed him anyway. We have to leave it there. Thank you, Congressman Curt Weldon. We'll be right back with Roseanne Barr.
The Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.